It's actually very interesting because you're talking about mathematics
Very
in
much
the
so.
choreography, and I had the opportunity to teach maths this year. I hadn't taught maths before, and I was looking at it from an artist's perspective, and I
Right.
started seeing patterns. We were looking at trigonometry and geometry, and we're now looking at gaming,
Of
and I'm starting to
course.
get into the kind of gaming
Gaming.
side of
Right.
things. And I may be teaching next year, which I think is programming is similar in a sense to poetry because of the way the script. Have you been involved in any kind of programming, or
No,
is
I've
that a
not been
technology?
involved in computer programming, but I'm aware of what goes behind it. I mean, it's the whole thing of binary 1010. It's back to those basics, and it's a computation and permutation and combination of the same thing. Um, it's just another aspect of basic maths, I think, simple maths. It's just the applications have changed, and the way the application is presented has become much more sophisticated and faster and more efficient. Um, I mean, look at now, you can have a storage in your camera, which would otherwise you'll have reels and reels of film, to do what we are trying to do in a short space of time. So all that has, progressed and changed. But, there's always, you gain something, but you lose something. Uh, I have no problem. I am not one of those uh, acute because I've shot in film as well as digital, and high quality digital can be pretty good. I mean, but I know what the warmth of shooting in film and all that is. It's just like talking about whether you want to listen to music on a vinyl or a record as opposed to a digital streaming sound. But if you get the balance right, I think both medium can work really well. Um, so the computer or programming or gaming aspect was always there even before. We just use a new term for it. But the idea and the concept was used even before.
We're in a lovely garden today, and you were telling me before that New Delhi has like 26 million people, and I
Yes,
think for people in
it's very
Ireland,
very sparsely populated.
yes, I think we would have a great sort of difficulty to with the concept. How do you find that the city influences your work, or how often do you escape to the country like you've come to Ireland?
Well, really, to me, to tell you honestly, this is like heaven on earth. I mean, Anna McCarrick, the Tar and Guthrie Center. I've been here before, and my friend's house is particularly special. To sit here like this endlessly, morning to night. I mean, I do my work here, drink all my tea here, chat with people, and you just be outside. Of course, I'm told that this is a particularly uniquely good weather space you have. In a big city, of course, it's completely the opposite. It's noisy, it's chaotic, it's bustling, but I love it. I love all that. So, but you have to create your own oasis. So, my study where I work is a little chamber of silence, and whatever sounds I want to hear, I inject there, like the frog and the water or ambient music. So, I'm sort of in control, but I'm away from people, I'm away from everything else. You need it desperately. I remember there was a whole phase I went through where I was completely fascinated by graveyards, especially old graveyards. And this is pre-digital age, so I realized that was the only place you could be in the quiet, away from people. And so I used to do a lot of reading and writing in graveyards. And the older and the more decrepit the graveyard is, the more fascinating and interesting it was visually. And of course, I'm interested in light, so early mornings and late evenings when the sun slants through, and the pregnant calm that pervades the atmosphere is just magical. So that was then my space in big cities, of quietude and silence and reflection. But I must say that I can actually create these spaces wherever I am. A lot of it is to do with mental space also. So even in a big city, I don't need the fancy Bose noise cancellation headsets. I can actually do it myself. There may be a lot of noise around you, But if you zone in to a space which is silent, you can be in a silent spot. So a lot of it is also comes through um, the whole binary we're talking about: yes, no, 1, 0, erase, delete, or include. Maybe it's meditation or Eastern thought, but you can be in a very noisy space, but yet be very calm. And you can be in a very calm space and be agitated. So really, a lot of it is controlled by the human psyche. Um,
Having visited the West here, what advice would you maybe give to new writers who are trying to find their little space in their day to do writing?
I think the first and foremost things that new writers or any writer should, do is to read a lot. They should read other people's writing. They should read the writings of the past. They should read stuff which they don't particularly like, because otherwise, if you're in your comfort zone, then you're never going to kind of push beyond a certain space. And I find it astonishing that a lot of writers, young writers I know, they don't read other people's writing. They're also obsessed with their own writing. Um, so I find reading a real pleasure. It's always been the case, and it still is. A good book or a good couple of books on a trip with you are the best friends you can possibly have, and music too. But I'm just saying, reading is probably key. So that would be the first thing, and the constant thing that should be there anyway. But the writing also involves a lot of clerical stuff. So you have to just get to the desk. It's not as glamorous as it sounds, because when you have the book published and people are sort of seeing you signing books and you're on tours reading and so on. That's the very, very small percentage, the glamour end of the whole thing. 98% of it is you're in a room or wherever you are with your pen or pencil or the keyboard, and you're bashing away words, and then you visit it again and again, and you sort of edit it, and a lot of it is not fun, but it can be, depending on how you feel it is. But I think the rigor of reading and writing is very critical, and reading really, for instance, because I grew up with three languages, Hindi and Bengali, and to an extent Urdu, which I understand through my ear, but I can't read the script because it's a very different script. Um, has made me a better poet in English, for instance. I'm so grateful for those other languages, because the richness of tonality and structure that they bring to my English language writing is, made it, to personally for me, much richer. Just like, we talk about this whole thing in the English departments, the world English. What is world English? I mean, people really think of English as English. That's the Queen's English, and now more and more American English. But there's so much more. There's the Caribbean English, there's the African English, there's the Indian English, there's the Australian, and the Canadian English. And the accents and the intonations are beautifully subtle and pliable and musical, because so each climate requires a different kind of register, and when you start traveling in those spaces, then you realize the sort of richness and the vastness of the language itself. It doesn't have to be just very clipped.
We have more on the way, so please subscribe to this channel and check out the link below if you'd consider becoming a patron to help us keep making more content. Thanks for watching.